Dude, I can't believe it's been like around 6 months. This delay's been like 6 months. Are you kidding me? I can't even wrap my head around how long of a time we've had to wait for this game, especially considering they were ready to launch the game and we've had to wait all this time now. All right, well, that's what we're going to talk about today. We've had almost a 6-month delay for XDefiant at this point. So the question really is, when this game actually does come out, is it going to be the same game that we played in the PTS before the delay, or is it going to be different? Is it going to be improved? What is the game going to actually look like now versus before? If you want to find out what I have to say about that, even though it probably doesn't really matter, do me a quick favor, hit that like button on this video. Let's shoot for 200 likes. Can we get 200 likes today? All right, so the original slated release for XDefiant was late summer 2023, which is right in that August/September timeframe. That's when we were super excited and expecting the game to officially release. We got to play the beta, we got the PTS on PC, we got to test out a bunch of things, and we were ready for it to come out, and it just didn't. They actually passed all of the submissions that they needed to pass in order to release the game, and Mark Rubin directly stated that if they wanted to, they could have just shipped the game. It wasn't like something was actually holding back the game. They actually could have shipped it if they wanted to. They specifically chose not to because of a variety of things that they wanted to address. A couple of those specific things that they wanted to address was the fact that there were some frame spikes that were happening to some players that was a result of some malfunction within their anti-cheat software. Now, not everybody got this problem, and I personally did not receive this issue when playing on the PTS, but a lot of people did, and they complained that the game felt weird and different. They actually found the culprit of the issue and they fixed it. They also worked on improving the netcode efficiency. That's been one thing that a lot of people have complained about with the game, is they feel like the netcode has been subpar. Well, they have addressed that. And staying in line with netcode, they also completely switched over all of their servers to Linux instead of presumably Windows. And the intended use of that is to allow them to spin up servers faster and be able to hold a larger player pool. And this is really just supposed to help them when it comes to launch day, being able to have a smoother overall launch. They also completely replaced the social/party system. Apparently, when they opened it up to a larger form of testing, it didn't stack up to what they wanted the experience to be like, so they completely overhauled it and did a brand new system, and we've yet to see what that looks like. And all of these changes that I just listed right here, they actually did private testing in the month of January to ensure that everything worked up to the standards that they have for themselves. Now, if you guys remember, originally we were supposed to get another PTS or beta of some kind before the game launches. From the looks of it, with them doing private testing in January, I don't think we're going to get another beta beforehand. All of these changes, which were the main reason why they delayed the game, according to the end of January, have been addressed. And now here we are, we're entering the middle of March and we still have nothing to do with the game. We didn't hear anything official from Mark in the month of February. So the question is, where are we really at? At this point, with this delay being almost 6 months, where is the game actually at? Because if the things that they were trying to fix, which was on top of the game being perfectly shippable, were completed in January, then why are we almost in the middle of March and we still don't have anything? So it begs the question for me, if we've had such a long delay at this point, the entire team isn't just working on one thing. The way that game development works, you have multiple teams working on multiple different areas of the game at the same time. With this extended delay, that also theoretically would mean that other areas of the game have been worked on at the same time. That makes me very interested into what the game will actually look like when it launches. Some of these things that we were expecting as post-launch content, will it come as actual launch content now? Will it come as Season 1 content? So some of the original post-launch content that was planned to come to the game, but just after launch, was probably one of the biggest ones, being an S&D/One Life mode. This one has been discussed so many times at this point, and it has always been stated as post-launch from Mark Rubin. Now the question is, what does post-launch look like? Does that look like Season 1, which is supposed to be 6 weeks after the pre-season/Season 0 launches? Will we get S&D with Season 1? At this point, if the game, listen, they were already working on an S&D game mode 6 months ago. I feel like they have to have an S&D mode done by now, you know what I mean? So maybe it launches with Season 1, who knows? Also, another thing that I don't think it's going to serve as large of a community as people expect, but last gen console supports. Remember that it was originally supposed to come at launch of the game, and then they decided they're not going to do it at launch. It's going to be a post-launch thing that they address. Well, now it's been almost 6 months. Will we have last gen console support at launch? A couple of modes that I have not heard any direct discussions about from Ubisoft at all has been TDM and free-for-all. These are the two modes that mean the most to me personally. When I play a arcade shooter, these are the modes that I always play, and I'm hoping, bro, it's been almost 6 months. Give me TDM and free-for-all, please. Hit like if you agree with me. They've also stated that they are working on kill cams, and I believe Mark mentioned that they were working on kill cams within the last 2 months. I think closer to the January timeframe that was discussed in a reply on Twitter. So the question is, are kill cams going to be ready for launch with Season 0, or will they be a Season 1 thing, or will they be even after that? I don't know how complicated of a function this is. I know that theater mode and things of the like have been a hot topic with various games that used to have them and now don't include them anymore because of how complicated of a system they are. I'm curious to see if this is something that's going to be there right away. I don't think it is necessarily a huge feature that has to be there. Sometimes when I play games like Call of Duty, I pay attention to the kill cam. Sometimes I don't. I don't think it is absolutely necessary, but I am curious to see with the delay, have they been able to have enough time to work on it to have it come out with launch or shortly after? I don't know. Fully custom button remapping was something that has been discussed on Twitter as well as something that is coming post-launch. We're going to have limited remapping when the game does launch, but according to what has been said, fully custom remapping will be a later down the line thing. I don't think that this is something that will be there at launch. I think that this, in terms of the hierarchy of things that need to be addressed, fully suspect that this is a lower on the totem pole sort of thing. Now, Steam support, I also do not expect to be a launch support thing for XDefiant. This has always been a good idea down the road sort of thing, like maybe a year 2 kind of idea, like maybe once the game gets its feet under them, maybe they push for a Steam release later on, because it is a big undertaking to connect Ubisoft Connect with Steam, because they can't just send it to Steam all by itself. They have to have Ubisoft Connect, you know, functionality and stuff like that as well. So it is a big feature that I don't see happening at launch. I really do think that this really is something that is a post-launch sort of function. Who knows at this point, you know, but I just don't think that 6 months is enough time to do that in conjunction with all the other things. And I also, like I said, don't think that that is super high on their totem pole at the moment. Now, one thing that I think is possible to come with launch now that was originally supposed to be post-launch was the prestige system. We've known that they're working on a prestige system since summer of last year, and they wanted to create some form of classic prestige system while also having a little bit modernized with being a free-to-play game that is supposed to live on for years and years and years. You can't just have only 10 prestiges for the life of the entire game, because then eventually people would just hit max prestige and then there would be nothing else to prestige to. So they have been working on this for at least 6 months. I think that this is actually something that could be a launch function now, before being post-launch, but now I actually could see this being something that either launches with Season 0 or Season 1. If you really think about it, Season 1 is really probably the true launch of the game. You know, we'll play for Season 0, but in terms of its overall content pool, it will be a little bit more limited in comparison to when Season 1 drops, because when Season 1 drops, we're going to get ranked play and a bunch of other things as well. So I think Season 1, for a lot of these things, makes sense. And again, Season 1 happens 6 weeks after Season 0 drops. Another thing that has been mentioned is weapon inspect animations. Now, again, this is something that's a little more of a quality of life feature. It's not something that has to be here on launch. It's not a game-defining feature for the game. It is a cool thing to have. I don't know the difficulty that goes into designing something like this. Can't imagine it's super complicated, but I also can't imagine that this is super high on their priority list either. So personally, I can expect this to probably still be a post-launch function. I just don't see this being super high on the hierarchy of things that they want to get addressed before launch. This could definitely be more of like a Season 2 thing in my mind, something like that, but who knows? Now, another thing to think about here is that the original content plan that we had for XDefiant that was revealed last summer said that we were going to be getting 4 seasons throughout the first calendar year, and in each season, we're getting 3 new maps and 3 new weapons for each season. So for the year total, we're getting 12 new maps and 12 new weapons. Will that stay the same this time around? When the game does launch, are we going to keep that same original content plan, or will we have more weapons, more maps, or will we have a different set of things in general? I'm actually really curious to see when this game does come out and we see season 1 revealed, what is it going to look like? Is it going to be different? Because at this point, you got to think, we've had an additional 6 months of development time put into this game. Will they front load more content now, or will they stick with what was already stated and just bolster the rest of the game? I think they could go either way with this. Now let's kind of like take a holistic approach to this here. In my personal opinion, I think with 6 months of added development time onto the game, this game is going to be a whole heck of a lot more feature rich and more full than what it was originally going to be. Now, I already think that the launch of the game was going to be very solid in the first place, but I think now after 6 months, I think we can expect more launch modes. I would really hope that would be the case. Fingers crossed. I really think that this game actually can be more feature rich when the game does launch. You got to think 6 months of development time, and there's multiple teams working on multiple different things in the game. I do not think that it will look exactly the same as when it did last September. I just don't see a world where that happens. And if it does, I mean, I'll still be happy because I absolutely loved what we had in September, but I just think that this game has a very strong chance to be even more complex and rich than what it was before. The polish for this game, I think, is going to be far better. They're going to get an extra coat of wax on there before this game actually does come out here at the end of March, hopefully. But what do you guys actually think? I'm super curious. Do you think with the extra added time of development that we're going to have more features and more content in the game at launch? I think that we have a very strong chance that some of these original post-launch content ideas might be able to slot into launch content ideas. And again, without having a lot of things discussed from Mark as well, there's a good chance that some of these things have just been sneakily added right into launch. I'm keeping my hopes high, but I'm also not keeping them too high because I don't want to be too far on the hopium train. But with that said, if you guys want to stay up to date with the most recent updates and leaks that have happened in XDefiant, check out this video on screen now.